Geometry management is very important when it comes to making GUI applications. Geometry management refers to how we make our views, that is, the placement of different widgets inside of our view. As every application has different design and different requirement of the interface, so we have to move our widgets and make a view accordingly. So this is very important, and TK Inter provide tools for geometry management, and one of the tool is Grid. Grid is a geometry management tool in which we arrange our widgets in a form of a grid or a matrix. This grid has rows and columns. Every row is defined by a number and every column is also defined by a number. We can have as many rows and as many columns as we want. So the first row is defined by the number 0, second row with 1 and third row with 2. And similarly the first column with 0, second with 1 and third with 2. And in every cell of this grid we place widgets as buttons, labels, entries, and there are a lot of more widgets. So every cell has a widget. In this example, you can see on row 0 and column 0 we have a button, and in row 0 and column 1 we have a label, and similarly in column 1 we have entry. So we can define row and column and place the widget there. So for example, if we want button in this cell as indicated in the figure, this comes to be third row and third column. So third row is defined by number 2 and third column is defined by 2. So what we will say row 2 and column 2, and that button will be placed in that cell. So by referring to the row number and column number, we can place any widget to the required position where we want it to be. So this is how grid works. Welcome! In this session we will learn about Grid Geometry Manager. So I'm in code editor and I will make few widgets here that I will add to grid. So first of all I will make a label here. Let's say it will be in the root window, and I will say its text will be label 1, as it will be our first label, and I will also change the background color so that I can identify it from other labels. I will say BG is equals to, I will say red, so it will be of red color, and now I will add it to the grid. So how I can do that? First of all, I will cache the object. As label is a class, it will return us a object, and I will name this object label 1. So now label 1 contains the object which is returned from here and which is label 1. So I can say label 1 dot grid. So by writing this dot grid, we'll add it to the grid, and now we have to define the parameters here that where we need to add this. So first of all I will say row is equals to 0 as I want it to be the first, and I will say column is equals to 0. So it will be in the first cell of our grid. Now I will add few more labels here by copying this. Let it be label 2, and the text of this will also be label 2, and let's change the color to green. So we have a second label, label 2, whose background is green, and now we want it to be in the row 0, but column will change. I will say column number 1. So it will be in the same row. The first label will be this one in the same row, and the second label will be this one, label 2. So I will add a third label here as well, L3. So I will say label 3, and I will change its color to, let's say, pink. And then I will change the row here now. Now I want this to be in the second row, so I will say 1, and column will be 0 because in the second row this will be in the first cell of second row. So let's add another label, label 4. It will be saying label 4. I will change its color to blue, and I will add it in second row, which will be 1 here, and now column will not be 0, it will also be 1. So what I have here, I have 2 labels in first row and 2 labels in second row. Let's run this and see. As you can see in the output, we have 4 labels here. Label 1 in first row, first cell, and label 2 in first row, second column, and label 3 in second row, first column, and label 4 in second row, second column. And we can uniquely identify these by their color. So we have successfully added 4 labels into our grid. Welcome! In this session, we will learn about padding of a widget inside the cell of a grid. So we have 4 labels in our grid and one button. I will just remove this button because it's not required anymore. So we have 4 labels and we can give them padding, and there are 2 types of padding. Let's discuss them by doing it. So on label 1, when I added it in the grid, I can add here pad x, and let's say I give it a value 20, and then I give pad y and give it a value 20 as well. So what it will do, it will give it padding inside of that particular cell in the grid corresponding to x and y. So let's run this and see. As you can see in the output, label 1 is with padding. So pad x equal to 20 means that we are giving the padding on x-axis, that is on the left and right side of this label. And pad y means we are giving a 20 padding on top and bottom of this label. So we can change these value as required. So now it's 20 on left and right and 20 on top and bottom of label 1. But as you can see, the size of the row changed and it is applied on the complete grid row. It's not applied on the bottom grid row, the second row, but it's applied on the row 1. So there is another option here. If we include I behind pad x, which means inner padding. So I will add I on behind of pad x and pad y, and I will run it again and I will explain this now. As you can see, by adding I, it expanded the label as well. So what it did here is, it provided the padding 20 on both x and y, but inside of the label. That is, it increased the size of the label. So simply pad x mean padding outside the widget, and if I add I means inside. So inside of the widget, whatever widget it is, it will give the padding inside of it. So as I did iPad X and iPad Y, it increased the label 1 and expanded it to complete cell. So let's add this to the label 2 as well, and let's see the output. I will copy this and I will add it here, and I will run it. As you can see in the output, label 2 is also applied with the inner padding. I will change the padding on the x-axis to 40. Let's see what happens for the label 2 only. So on x-axis I am saying provide an inner padding of 40, and on y provide an inner padding of 20. So let's see what it does here. As you can see, the width of the label is double the size of before it was. So label 1, label 2 with inner padding. Now let's decrease the y padding here. I will change it from 20 to 10 here, and this as well, and we will see the output. As you can see, the height of the labels are changed now. So this is how padding is applied. So there are 2 types of padding, simple pad x and iPad x. So simple pad x and pad y provides the padding outside of the widget, and iPad x and iPad y provides the padding inside of the widget. So that's all from this session. When we place a widget inside of a cell, we can also define that to what side or corner this widget should be placed inside of a cell. This can be done by using sticky. For that, we divide the cell in north, east, south and west. So the default case is when we place the widget, it is placed in the center. But depending upon our requirement, we can change the location. So if we want that button to be on the top left corner, we will set sticky to NW. That refers to northwest. So it becomes the top left corner. And if we want it to be the on top right corner, we will say NE, northeast. And if we want it to be in the east, we will say E. Similarly, we can set other values to sticky. So as you can see, button 1 is on the top left corner, so we have set it sticky to NW, and button 2 is in the bottom, so we have set sticky to south, and button 3 is on top right corner of the cell, so we have set sticky to northeast. So button 4 is on the left, so we have set sticky to west. So by using this, we can set the placement of our widgets. And this can only be done when the size of widget is less than the size of the cell. Welcome! In this session, we will learn about the sticky attribute of grid. We can add that attribute here when we are calling grid, like rows and columns, we can add that sticky here. So currently, our window has 4 labels, label 1, 2, 3 and 4, as you can see on the screen. Now, as you can see, these labels are completely filling the space of cell. So each and every cell in this grid has a widget, and that widget is completely covering the space of that particular cell. So sticky has no use in this case. So what I will do here, I will increase the inner padding of few widgets. Let's say widget 1, I will increase the padding here like iPad X is equals to 50 and iPad Y is equals to 50. So now its size will be bigger, and I can do the similar thing for label 4. I will do iPad X is equals to 50 and iPad Y is equals to 50 as well. So let's run this again and we will see. As you can see, label 1 and label 4 size is increased. Now you can notice on label 2 and 3 that they are not completely filling the space of cell. Now we can use sticky here. We can place them anywhere in this cell by using the sticky attribute. Now first of all, let's apply it on label 2. I will say sticky to north. For north I use capital N, and I will run it again and we will see where it goes. It should go to the north. As you can see, label 2 has placed its position on the north. Now I will change the label 3 position. So I will say, let's say sticky is equals to northwest. Now it will move into that corner of northwest. Let's see. As you can see, it moved into the northwest of this cell. So by writing these positions here, we can move these widgets to any place of our choice where we want them to be. So they are very useful because cells can be of different sizes, so we can just change their position. Now I will just again change the position of label 2. I want it on the bottom right corner. So what I will do, I will say south east. So south east will make it on the right bottom corner. So let's see. I will say here label 2 on south east, and let's see what it does here. Okay, as you can see, it went in the bottom right corner of that cell. So by changing these values, we can move these labels or widgets, any widget, to any place here. So let's look at another thing. As you can see, label 2 is not covering the complete space of the cell. So what we can do here is, if I do here, let's say, I will remove this sticky here and I will say west plus east. So what it will do here, this plus sign, this will make the label expand from west to east in the complete cell. So let's see what it means. As you can see, label 2 has expand its width from west to east. So we can use these things as well to like expand these widgets. If I add here like west, east plus north plus south, now I mean that expand to every corner, expand to every complete cell. So let's see. As you can see, label 2 has expanded to complete cell. So we can use these things to have different. Now I will just expand label 3 from north to south and we will see the output. So expanding from north to south. Let's see how it looks. As you can see, from north to south, it has expanded completely. So these attributes are very useful when we are working on the geometry. And if we do not provide this sticky attribute here, let's say I do not provide it for label 3, on default, the widget is placed in the center of the cell. So let's see. I will run it again and we will see the output. As you can see, label 3 is placed in the center of the cell. So the default behavior is that the widget is placed in the center. But if we provide any sticky there, we want it to be stick to any place, we can provide that. So that's all from this session.